News when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Nathan Hager.
And I'm Karen Moscow.
Karen, futures are falling this morning after President Donald Trump unleashed his final round of tariff announcements hours before his August 1st deadline. The president slapped 35% tariffs on Canadian goods that aren't covered under the U.S. Mexico-Canada trade agreement. Switzerland's products were hit with a 39% rate. Taiwan's exports are facing a 20% duty, though that country says it expects to keep negotiating. We get more from Bloomberg News global trade editor Brendan Murray.
The bottom line here is that the average U.S. tariff rate is going from about 2.5% before Trump was sworn in January to around 15%, according to Bloomberg Economics. And that's, in any economist's book, a difficult thing for an economy to absorb. So I think we'll see some more talks going on in the days and weeks ahead.
Bloomberg's Brendan Murray says most countries are facing a baseline 10% tariff rate, while roughly 40 nations are jumping to 15%. The new tariffs won't take effect till August 7th to give U.S. Customs and Border Protection time to prepare. Former U.S. trade negotiator Stephen Olson says that could add to market uncertainty.
We do have a week to go, and this is a man who thrives on chaos and unpredictability and sometimes seems to be running his trade policy like a reality TV show. So until these tariffs actually go into effect on August 7th, let's sit back and see what happens.
Former trade negotiator Stephen Olson says President Trump has embraced tariffs for decades, so these moves should not come as a surprise.
Well, Nathan, President Trump is also escalating his campaign to pressure pharmaceutical companies to lower drug prices. And Bloomberg's John Tucker joins us with the very latest. John, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Karen. In letters sent to Eli Lilly, Novo Nordisk, Pfizer, and others, Trump insisted the companies immediately lower what they charge Medicaid for existing drugs. He also asked them to guarantee that future medicines be launched and remain at prices on par with they cost overseas. The president giving the world's 17 largest drug makers 60 days to voluntarily comply. If they don't, he writes, his administration will, quote, deploy every tool in our arsenal to protect American families. Well, the pharmaceutical industry has long protested the idea of globally linked drug prices. They say it's a threat to years of U.S. dominance in biomedical research, and they've urged the administration to instead turn its attention to the middlemen in the supply chain. Shares of Novo Nordisk this morning down another 4%. This company is losing its spot among Europe's 10 most valuable companies. At Pfizer, pre-market, that is down about 0.5%. In New York, I'm John Tucker, Bloomberg Radio.
John, thank you. Earnings are also very much in focus this morning. Shares of Amazon are down 7.5%. The online retail giant projected weaker than expected operating income and its trailing sales growth of its cloud rivals. That has investors questioning whether the company's huge investments in artificial intelligence are paying off. Anurag Rana is a senior tech analyst at Bloomberg Intelligence.
You see, they met expectations on AWS growth of 17% in constant currency. But, this is where we are saying that this is probably not good enough because Microsoft beat by a big number, Google beat by a big number. And the big question is going to be, why didn't Amazon beat by a big number?
Bloomberg Intelligence's Anurag Rana says Amazon spent a record $31.4 billion on capital expenditures in the quarter. That was up about 90% from the same period a year earlier.
On the flip side, Nathan, shares of Apple, they're up almost 2%. The iPhone maker posted its fastest quarterly revenue growth in more than 3 years. Strong iPhone sales and a rebound in China helped beat estimates despite a projected tariff hit. Mark Gurman covers Apple for Bloomberg.
There are people who still have iPhones that are several years old, 4 to 6, even older years of iPhone, right? There's people on Android. There's people new to the smartphone market. And clearly, the impact of tariffs didn't have a negative impact on Apple. It had a positive impact on Apple. That's because a lot of people were anticipating major price hikes to the iPhone, and they flooded Apple retail stores.
And Bloomberg's Mark Gurman says Apple predicted that fourth quarter revenue would be up by a percentage in the mid to high single digits. CEO Tim Cook also says the company is upping its investment in artificial intelligence.
Well, now, Karen, the earnings focus turns from big tech to big oil. This hour, we hear from ExxonMobil and Chevron. We get a preview from Bloomberg's Tom Busby.
Investors at ExxonMobil eager to hear about the company's progress in developing a massive oil field in Guyana. Also, the latest shale production plans in the Permian Basin. Bloomberg consensus calls for revenue of $80.39 billion and adjusted earnings per share of $1.56. Chevron investors want to hear about the company's long-delayed but now completed acquisition of Hess and how that'll impact its share buyback plans. Bloomberg consensus calls for revenue of $46.75 billion on adjusted earnings per share of $1.71. Tom Busby, Bloomberg Radio.
All right, Tom, thank you. Well, a busy week on the economic front concludes this morning with the July jobs report. Economists are forecasting a gain of 100,000 jobs and an unemployment rate of 4.2%. We get more with Bloomberg's Michael McKee.
Job growth will slow and unemployment will have ticked up in July, economists forecast, but it's not the end of the world or even the economic expansion. Once again, it's tariffs. Companies have been suspending guidance and announcing price increases to offset tariffs, but they have not yet resorted to cutting jobs. It won't matter much to the Fed if unemployment does rise by a tenth or so, but a quick jump to, say, 4.5% would worry policymakers who may take it as a signal policy is too tight. There will be time to consider the implications no matter what we get. The next Fed meeting is not until September 17th. Michael McKee, Bloomberg Radio.
And that's news when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Karen Moscow.
I'm Nathan Hager, and this is Bloomberg.